Hey, what is up, you guys? My name is Sammy Robbins. I'm the owner and founder of Alive and Free Consulting, and you are about to watch some interviews we did with some of our clients, and so I hope you enjoy as much as we did.
Well, I'm so stoked to talk to you because
We've loved watching your process. We love getting to experience you like in the calls and just how radically different you're just your overall.
it's wild.
Yeah.
Everything about you. I know we compliment you like once a week now.
Oh, you guys.
But like a month ago, I remember just noticing you like crazy and I was like, babe, Carly is so different for the last like 2 months.
You said she was radiant.
You're radiant, you look alive inside, you have peace. I can tell you're connected to yourself. I can tell you're connected to God. And every time I look up or look in the Facebook community, you're like confronting another thing in your life. You're like a freaking bulldozer in this process, just knocking down all the crap in your life you don't want there anymore. I love it. It's been so fun.
That's awesome.
That's so amazing. Thank you guys. I've
Well-
like learned so much from your process and I'm just taking it. So thank you.
I love it.
Did you expect that when you had started? And like, did you expect what you're experiencing now? Or
No, honestly, I had no idea what to expect. All I knew is that I was drowning and I didn't know how to get out of it. And I knew that there was healing, but I didn't know it. Like I knew that it could be a potential, but I didn't expect any of this.
Mm-hmm.
That's so awesome. Well, we obviously want to ask you a bunch of questions and just pick your brain about your process and your journey. And you're free to share as much or as little as you like, whatever feels comfortable and safe. I know we like doing these interviews, not just to enlarge our impact and help more people, but also because I think people need to receive impartation from someone's action, like someone's life that has gone through fresh stuff. And I know for me in my process, it's been really helpful having leaders that have conquered so many different things for like 10, 20 years. But some of the most impactful things that I've grabbed are from people that are, only 5 steps or 10 steps ahead of one thing that I'm needing, or something that's really fresh where it's like, I just overcame something last week. And so here you go. And I think getting to talk with you and hear things that are fresh, but also things that you've walked through over the past year, it'll just be fun to grab all those things. And so just know that you can share as much or as little as you like. And our goal really isn't just to use this content to market and sell stuff. So don't feel like you have to.
You don't have to pitch us or try to sell us or make us sound good. You don't have to do any of that. Sometimes we interview people and they're like, you should do this program. And we're
it's the best thing that I ever did in my entire life. And it's like, okay.
You should sign up.
I like that you say that, but not an infomercial.
Too much.
I would first love to hear. So I knew that you came to us and you were in a relationship. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because your story is a little different. Like this week, we're going to be interviewing mostly women who went from being totally single and not dating to dating and engaged. But for you, your success story is a little bit different. So you just tell me about it.
Yeah, it looks a little bit different because I came from a 4-year relationship that was really on and off. It was really unhealthy. That the guy actually was really healthy and he kept choosing into relationship with me, even though he knew how unhealthy I was. And I ended up I kept on hurting him again and again and again. And so when I came to this program, it was really because like I actually saw one of the strongest men that I know break down and cry and shake in front of me. And it was because I had betrayed him and I had cheated and I had done a lot of things that I wasn't proud of, but I didn't know why. And so now what it looks like, that relationship is completely out of my life. And it's for the best, even though it was really painful. Because it was actually like a springboard it was like a catapult for healing, because we were both able to like take steps back and reevaluate what was going on, and then launch into our own inner healings. Well, I don't know what he's doing, but at least for me, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Like, and that takes obviously a ton of courage and bravery to end something like that, and to let go of something that you were that invested in, and having the willingness to confront things that you needed to take ownership for inside of that experience. And so I'm curious, what do you feel like you needed most at that point?
At which point?
Like when you came into the program, like, and you were at that tipping point where you felt like you needed to do something, like what was the thing that motivated you? Like, what was the thing that you knew you needed? What was the outcome that you were really looking for?
I knew I needed help. I knew I needed language for what I was going through. I knew that I was making a lot of these just not good decisions, hurting somebody that really loved me and cared about me, but I didn't know why I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I was stuck in cycles of pain and just a lot of stuff that like I like shame cycles and self-hatred cycles that was actually behind all the actions that I was doing. So I think I just needed like that explanation. I needed that guidance, and I needed support in stepping into all the steps in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like what you're saying is like I wasn't self-aware at all, and I needed to become aware and get in tune with what the heck was actually happening in my world, in my inner world, in my relationship. And I can see how true that's been for you. Like, obviously, you've done a lot more than just get self-aware. You have grown leaps and bounds past self-awareness. But I watched you right when you started getting aware and being able to identify things. Like, you'd come to us, and I remember one of my first interactions with you, you were just saying, like, I feel like I'm just bad. Like, at my core, I feel like I am bad, and I ruin things, and I sabotage relationships, and I leave people worse off than I did whenever I met them. And it was just that narrative in your head. And I remember walking you through, I don't know if I walked you through an encounter with God, but I do remember just speaking a ton of truth over you and kind of telling you like where that lie comes from and what truth actually was, and how that was shame. That was the voice of shame in your life. And I watched you, like, right after that moment in time, which was one of our first encounters that you and I had. I watched you start growing and healing rapidly when shame was just broken off. Like, once you could identify and once you were self-aware of what was actually at play, you were like, oh, I can have power over this thing in my life now. And so I've watched that become true. Like, you even just getting the tools and the language of what's actually going on and why, that's catapulted you like crazy. I love that. But on that note, I'd love to hear, like, what after that moment have been things that you've done or things that have been helpful for you to keep fighting through that voice of shame and self-hatred?
Oh, that's such a good question. A lot of them was like, I realized early on that a big part of my process, because I carried so much shame and self-hatred, was going to be exposing it. And it was going to be bringing it into the light and just having people love on me, or at least just be seen in it, which felt terrifying. It's like bringing out all the dirty stuff from my closet from years ago.
Yeah.
And so what it really looked like for me was taking really crazy bold steps and just posting videos on our Facebook group and connecting with other girls and being really radically honest about the things that I was not proud of and the versions of me that I really had like hated.
Yeah.
And that, more than anything else I can say, just like broke off shame layer by layer by layer.
So cool. And I've watched you be super active with the community of women, which I love. And that's how all of our girls who have gotten the most freedom have been the most engaged in that group. I'd love to hear, like, do you have people in your life outside of the group that know how to love you and support you and almost create that like judgment-free zone, or have you really found that in the community?
Yeah, the community is the only place I've ever found it. And
Love that.
I struggle with it now, because now more than after I've tasted it, it's something that I really, really want in my like day-to-day life. But I've only ever found it in the community because there's no tolerance for judgment. I mean, it's not even a thing that goes through most people's heads. It's mostly just love and acceptance. And it's so cool to see and be a part of.
I feel that too. I remember like one of the reasons why I started Alive and Free is because I ended up getting healthy after going after years of my own process. And then there was no one in my life that was going after the same thing. And I remember feeling so alone. And the healthier I got, the more alone I felt. And I didn't have leadership and I didn't have people running alongside me. And so one thing I wanted to create in Alive and Free was the community aspect where people didn't have to do it alone. But what I've found is once you get really strong and can pull from the strength of the community around you, it's actually easier to cultivate it in your own life, but it has to become yours first. And I've just loved watching you because you've taken so much ownership over literally every single breadcrumb that we've given you. You've made a meal out of it, and you're like utilizing everything and just running with it in your life. So I've loved seeing that happen.
Yeah. If you could almost like rapid fire, just say some of the things that you feel like you got in this process, internally and externally. I'd love to hear like, what are some of the things that you feel like, man, that's something that I have now. That's something that I have now.
Rapid fire, but it has to be like rapid fire.
No, it doesn't.
Pressure. Okay. Crazy, insane freedom, communication, language, self-love, acceptance, amazing tools like validation. That's really improved a lot of my outside relationships. Confidence, courage, boldness, just enjoying life too. I feel like that's a huge one. Like I wasn't showing up to my life. I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
And now I am. Those are all the ones I can think of.
And I'd love to hear, how has your relationship with God changed since you started the program? Like, what was it like before and what is it like now?
Oh, so good. Before I started the program, a quick short story is I met God like 2 years prior. And from the first time that I met him, I knew that there was an emotional healing journey that I needed to go on. And so I spent 2 years like trying to figure it out on my own, doing the whole church thing, declaring, worshiping, and I would always end up in the same position, which is nowhere, no progress. And so I actually really, really struggled to even believe that God existed.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you actually exist, like, why are you not answering my prayers? Why are you not like showing up for me like you show up for these other people? And so I didn't know how to connect with God. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't feel his presence outside of worship. That's where I was at when I started the program. And now I like wake up when I talk to God. I have dreams that wake me up in the middle of the night and God's talking to me. I feel like I actually have space. Like he's made space for me in his life, which like that's always been true, but now I actually realize it and I realize how important it is. And I'm like learning how deep trust can go with him.
Wow.
So cool.
I can feel him like every time I see you. I can see his presence on you and I can see the peace that you carry. And it's just so cool because it's something that can't be faked when it comes down to it. And I've loved watching you just cultivate that intimacy with him. It's so cool.
Yeah. Did you feel like before that you could really just be a mess with him, or has that changed at all since you've been in this process?
Yeah, no, that's definitely changed, because even when I was a mess with him, like I felt like there were so many standards like that he had put on me, which were just my own standards that I put on myself for being a mess. Like I can be a mess for 5 minutes and break down, but tomorrow I have to get up and make sure that I'm okay, and I have to do it all on my own. And I actually didn't believe that he cared about me and my mess. And that, like, the things that mattered to my heart, like my desires and my needs, I didn't think that he actually cared about it at all.
What changed?
And that's completely changed. I think just going through the process and realizing that, like, the emotional needs, first of all, recognizing them, and then knowing that he actually put them in our hearts so that he could meet those needs.
Yeah.
And he actually really wants to. Like, that was a key in my process, being like, okay, he's done that, but it's not a burden to him. He wants to. He actually wants to more than we want to get our needs met.
Yeah.
That was huge.
What taught you that he didn't want to before?
Family. Growing up, parents did the best they knew how to, the best that they could, but there was never space. There was never any space for me to express my voice unless it was in anger. And anytime that I feel like I did express what I wanted or what I needed, it was dismissed, belittled, put down, not taken seriously. And so just surviving, like, I learned that I had to just completely shove all those down in order to survive.
Wow. And do you feel like the way your relationship with your dad and like that dynamic between your dad, do you feel like that created a lot of the way that you viewed God?
Oh, 100%. 100%. My dad was there, but he wasn't there. He was there, but he was distant and not responsive and focused on providing financially, but not emotionally.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I viewed God. Distant and doesn't really care about my emotions, like, will pick me up and help me out when I'm in emergency, but day to day, like, bonding and just life, he wasn't there.
Wow.
What do you feel like? So I want to get a little bit more vulnerable, and you can go as deep as you want to. But I'm curious, what were your biggest triggers in dating relationships or with men?
Yeah, I haven't dated for a while, so I'm trying to think back. But a few of my, like, bomb triggers were when I felt belittled, when I felt like let me think about this for a second. Like, when I didn't feel pursued. I actually realized this one the other day, that I didn't think that a guy wanted me unless he, like, went out of his way beyond time and time and time again. And after each time I would reject him, then he needed to come back again and again. You too?
Me too.
Yeah, I realized that the other day. I was like, wow, that was crazy. But yeah, definitely that one. Pursuit, abandonment, and rejection.
Yeah.
Those were huge. Like, abandonment, whenever I felt like they would leave me, like, even if it was something so simple, and I'm trying to think of an example, but nothing's coming to my mind, but it could be as simple as them, like, going to the grocery store and not letting me know. Like, it was just like, I'm alone, I'm abandoned.
Wow.
And then rejection is, I would put out an idea, and even if it didn't feel like it was vulnerable, to me it felt like it was vulnerable because I never had space to voice anything in my life. And if it was rejected, then it was like the end of the world. Like, I completely shut down and I didn't know why.
Wow.
And can you describe, like, what did that process look like for you actually getting healing from things like that? You know, like abandonment for as like a specific thing that you walked through. Like, what did it actually look like for you to get healing in that area?
A lot of my process with abandonment and rejection has been like going back to those really, really painful moments in my childhood. And it actually first started with creating safety, because I didn't remember any of these memories until this past year. And it was because I really didn't feel safe, because I like I said, like my heart never had a space just to feel those things. And so it looked like uncovering those memories and going back and being really, really just intentional and bold, and sitting in those moments of pain and finding God in those moments, like asking him where he was, and he would show up. And most of the time, like for the last 7 months, it's pretty much just been no words. Like he'll just either hold me, or he'll kiss me on my cheek, or he'll tuck my hair behind my head, and it was just nurturing to me.
That's amazing.
I love that.
I'm curious too, like, what do you feel like were the hardest parts about this process for you over the last several months?
Oh, Spencer, you ask good questions.
I bring him here because I'm like, I'm gonna run out of questions, and then you're gonna have these like loaded ones. So you do this with me.
Seriously, it's awesome. Hardest parts, I think a lot of the initial stages, like when you're just like bombarded with information after information of what's going wrong in your life and why it's been there all along and all the cycles, and you're just like, oh my gosh. Like it's amazing tools, but you're like, I feel so overwhelmed right now because everything's wrong. So that was definitely like the hardest part to navigate. And then now that it's like calmed down a little bit, now I feel like the hardest part is going back into like different layers of that initial pain, and going back, and because it just takes a lot of energy to be like, oh my gosh, I've been through this process once before and now I got to go through it again, but it's deeper this time.
I love it. I want to know, and then I think we can almost be done unless you've got more nuggets in your pocket.
I'm loving this. This is great.
I know.
I love what
so
you're
rich.
sharing too, because it's so fun to hear.
It's also fun, like while we're interrogating you, seeing how comfortable you are in your skin.
Yeah.
You're so comfortable and natural, and it's so easy for you. It just shows me how much you've grown in you and in your authenticity.
I think if you can probably imagine what it was like having your first initial calls with our team, you know, there's probably layers of disconnect where you're like not even aware of what's happening or what you need. And so it's hard to answer specific questions. And then there's layers of like, I don't feel safe at all in any of this. And so, you know, I'm not going to share any of that whatsoever because you haven't cultivated that safety to yourself. And then to be able to experience, like, you as a person now, you're very aware. You're very aware of what's happening in your heart, what you've gotten, what you're still needing. You're okay with where you're at and not needing to be at this standard of success to be okay. You've learned to be okay not being okay. And that's probably one of the greatest things we've learned in our 10-year process is like, there's always going to be something, but we're fully loved now and we get to rest in that, you know? And so it's cool getting to experience that in you.
It's fun.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I actually remember the first call that I had, like deciding if I was going to take the program, and I decided, yes, okay, it's good. And then I can't remember who was on the call with me, but she was like, okay, I'll take your credit card now whenever you're ready. And I was like, okay, sure, let me go find it. And I put her on mute. My credit card was right in front of me, but I started Googling Alive and Free consulting scam.
Yes. What
You
came
typed
up?
in scam.
What did anything come up?
No, nothing came up. But I probably searched for like 5 minutes because it just shows you how much I didn't trust at all.
It makes sense. And
That is so funny
there's
though. I
also
love that.
so much stuff out there too. And I've gotten calls personal to my cell phone, which I don't do any business stuff on my cell phone. And people will call me and they'll be like, this actually only happened twice, but I just signed up and I ended up looking this number up online because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a scam because of this, and this. And I'm like, well, I'm the owner of Alive and Free. I promise it's not a scam.
That's awesome.
my life for this process. Anyways, I'd love to hear from you.
It's a very elaborate scam. That's why we're doing these interviews, to really just legitimize everything. So
Yep.
it looks,
Very elaborate.
Let's see how many people we can screw over. That's our real goal. I would love to hear for you, like, what have been, let me figure out how to phrase this. How have each of us been helpful to you in your journey? What have we done to you?
You guys have been so amazing. Like, I don't even know if I have words to describe how much I've been able to just take from you guys and how much you've given to us, but not even just given, like things that you just say offhand. And I realize, oh my gosh, that's something I can take from me. Specifically, I think I was actually thinking about this earlier today. Spencer, I think I relate a lot to your story. You just growing up and we just have similar things that happened. And so watching you, or not watching you, but hearing you confront your parents and being so bold in taking just crazy steps that people just wouldn't do because they're just afraid to do. But just really being bold and seeing how much freedom you have about it now. That's really helped me a lot. And I've actually taken a lot of that. Like, I remember when I confronted my dad, I actually took a lot of the same language that you used because I resonated with it a lot. And so that's been super big for me. And Sammy, oh my gosh, just your love and your confidence and the way that you, like, I love the way that you carry yourself and you just hold your space. And it's not only loving, but it's also so tender. It's just, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, in addition to all the language you've given me and all the tools you've given me, you just as a person have influenced my life incredibly by the way that you are and the way that you carry yourself and your love and just the way that you accept yourself too. It's been so cool to be just under you guys and learning from you guys and receiving from you guys. Like, you have such a special place in my heart.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Aww.
You have such a special place in our hearts
Really
too.
do.
And
Thank you.
We're just so honored. It's just having your trust and your investment in all of this has been a real treasure to us.
Yeah.
And it means so much, and we don't feel entitled or expectant of that ever. And so we're still just floored that people of your caliber would choose into learning from us or, placing value on our experience in our process. And so we just love you. And we love
so much. You're so precious to us.
Having gotten to have any level of influence in your life has been a true honor. So,
you guys, thank you so much. That's so sweet. I love you guys.
We love you so much. Thanks for giving us your time today.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you guys so much.
Seriously, Carly, we are so crazy proud of you.
I know. I'm like, there's another confrontation. There's another thing that she's walked. There's another thing that she's taken ownership for. She reached out to this person from her childhood. Like,
and let me just, crazy. Anyone who's watching this right now, let me tell you the things that she's come up with and ways to confront pain in her life and shame in her life are things, some of the things we never gave her or suggested or have ever talked about before. And she feels like a nudge from God of an area where she can find more healing and freedom. And she just goes for it. And I'm like, look, did you just see what Carly just did? That's amazing.
And that's why we wanted to have you on here too, because I feel like you're the epitome of someone that will get the most out of something like this, because information is so abundant nowadays that most people have a lot of information and no application. And you've taken everything and run with it and actually applied it to your life, which is why you've gotten so much out of it. And so
we're crazy proud of you.
Proud of you.
We love you.
Oh my gosh. That means so much to me. Thank you guys. I love you guys.
Yeah, we love you too.
Well, we will see you on our call in a couple days, and thanks so much for your time. And
thank you.
Thanks for your yes.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in a couple days.
Bye, honey.
Bye.